And then we find out that it was one of the valet knew the apartment owner, and the wife has jewelry, Rolex, a nice ring, diamond, and everything. So when she goes out, she take the card. Valet see that, and some people are not honest, and they say, oh, there's a lot of money here. Maybe
they're paying attention.
Yeah, pay attention. And they were bringing the grocery a few times. Valet bring the grocery up, and they were seeing the jewelry on the table. Then they knew where things were, and they knew they were not closing the door, and they knew when they were leaving too, because they were the one who gave them the car to leave the apartment. So they knew when they were home or when they were not home. And so that was easy. So it's an inside job, and sometimes it happens.
Welcome back to episode 8 with the only one, Victor Elbeze, private investigator of South Florida and the world.
And the world, yeah.
There you go. And today we're going to talk about HOA.
HOA and condominium association.
Perfect.
It's a subject that everybody's been talking about it lately. There is a lot of scandal. There is a lot of mismanagement and embezzlement, fraud, conflict of interest. So this is a very strong subject right now. We have noticed that we have a lot of demand now. I have received phone call from different people, usually homeowner, and they are concerned about the fraud and the conflict of interest going on into their condominium. Okay, so I have phone call from a homeowner. I have phone call from members of the association. Wanted to investigate all members previously because there is money missing. There is a lot of things going on. So they're calling us and they want to know if we can help them to uncover the truth.
Excellent. So as you always know, I start with the basics. I like to know what HOA stands for and how a private investigator can help.
Okay, so HOA, it's a homeowner association. Okay, this is more related for housing houses or townhouse or small building apartment. Then you have a condominium association, a larger condominium association. There are larger buildings, big buildings like you see on the beach have 200, 300 apartments. So those are condominium association. Okay.
And when I see that there is a relationship between the owners of these condominiums, of these apartments, and the board of directors of this association.
Absolutely.
So these owners are trusting this board of directors to manage the money.
It's not only that. I mean, there is every year there is a vote. All the owner of the condominium or the HOA association are voting for election to put in place between 5 and 9 members. Okay, so those members, there is a president, vice president, there is treasurer, there is secretary, etc. Everybody has a very specific role in the association. So every year there is election, and this election is based to be elected from all the owner of the building. And that's sometimes where there is a fight. A lot of time I get phone call because they believe that the election is fake. It's been arranged because the president has been president for the last 10 years. Okay. The regulation of the DBPR in Florida, I'm talking about Florida because we are in Florida right now, doesn't regulate it how many times those people can present themselves to be reelected. After a number of years, people are getting comfortable on this position, and they have tendency to arrange their friends, they arrange themselves. But I'm not saying that's the case. I know president of association, they've been here for a long time because they're doing a great job, okay, and they've been reelected. But at the eyes of certain owner apartment, they get conflicted. So of course they're calling us to see if we can do an investigation.
So this is a power of interest of powers.
Yes, yes. So we are always seeing if there is no, conflict of interest. So conflict of interest, it's very common. There is cases going on in South Florida right now. There is few people between last year and this year. Few condominium associations were under investigation with some city department or even the state, and people got arrested for fraud, embezzlement. One I'm gonna name. It's a condo in Aventura. Okay, it was all over the news. Okay, what was the name? I forgot the name.
Okay, you're talking about the case of
The
Hammock.
No, Hammock is scandal. This is a different case, which was even more spectacular.
The Hammock?
Yeah, the Hammock.
Yeah, I understand it was almost an embezzlement of $2 million.
Embezzlement of, I think, $2.6 million, something like that. And it's pretty big. And he got involved a few members of the association. Those people got arrested. It was like up to 5-6 person. Okay, indicted for this kind of fraud. It was all over the news as well. So there is so many corruption, conflict of interest. Sometimes they are creating invoices for a job that doesn't exist.
So my understanding when I'm researching these cases is that had they involve a private investigator in the investigation?
Sometimes a private investigator start the investigation, and obviously there is a criminal case, and most of the time, and I would say 99.9% law enforcement take over. They reinvestigate the case, okay, and of course they find a lot of problems with the bank statement,
mismanagement,
conflict. For example, the property manager was the property manager. He was also the president of the association, and he was also hired as an engineer for the building. And we find down the road that he was also the owner of the security company that was doing the security in the building. So this is not legal to do that. This is a conflict of interest, of course.
So let me ask you this question. Can 10 property owners of a HOA hire you to investigate the board of directors because they have suspicions of mismanagement of money?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Because it's easy, because we don't need any warrant to obtain any bank statement, because the banking information and bank statement they are available for the owners of the building, the association. So if you own an apartment in there, you can require the last year of the bank statement. They have to give it to you. They have 1 month to give you those documents. So for us, we know what we need to look for the fraud, and this is the bank. We have, you want to find the fraud, you follow the money. Money talk, okay?
Correct.
So that's where we start. So we have people coming to us. So of course we charge money. I mean, we are not a police department, so they have to pay us. So what I always recommend, they do a GoFundMe. So all the owners of the building, pitch in, they send money, and then when we reach a certain amount for the retainer investigation, we start the investigation. So most of the time is that.
So if, for example, you said a keyword there, you don't need a warrant or you don't need an extra permission to investigate to the board of directors. So let's say that they have a suspicion that XYZ name on this direction or these directors is mismanaging the money. I understand that as a private investigator, you have the capability, the tools to do bank asset and asset search on an individual, right?
Yes, but in that point, what we need to do is we have forensic account in the office here working with me. They are very talented people. And those are, we're looking at the payment, the checks, the book. We're looking at the bank statement. And then when there is a red flag, of course, we're going to read between the line and see where the money went. So to come back at the Aventura fraud, embezzlement. It's a Tomberry on the Green. Okay. It's a beautiful building across of the mall, Aventura Mall. The president got arrested not too long ago, a few months ago, for $1.6 million embezzlement. They find out that he was buying art for himself with the money of the condominium. He was the owner of a security company. He opened a company. He opened, he was very organized. He opened a shell company plus another company to open a security guard company. He was charging over price what the market was going on with the security guard, and also too many hours for a service that he was not even providing correctly. So that was also one of the red flags in the building. So there is a lot of fraud they find out. He was hiring himself as an engineer, so he was getting money every month from the condominium association. There is regulation, there is laws to protect those associations. A lot of time people are busy or they don't have time to look what's going on. Okay, they're busy with they have a job, they don't want to take care of the condominium, and they have other people in place already doing this.
And the perpetrators know.
Yeah.
Know this.
So, in Florida, for example, a lot of people own apartment, but they don't live in Florida. They live in New York. They come maybe 2-3 months a year. So they don't have time for that.
Correct.
So that's where things are getting bad. Okay.
Okay. So when you mentioned the word red flag, and that was going to be one of my questions. For example, when these owners hire you, what are the red flags that you recommend them to spot so that they can have a better shot to hire you and use better their time?
Okay. Red flag, for example, I had a case, was an apartment building on the beach, and the president of the association was the same person for the last 10 years. It appeared that the president of the association is also a broker, a real estate broker. Okay. It appeared that the realtor and president has an office in the building, and they were doing vacation rental. It's a nice building on the beach, and they were renting properties. The regulation was minimum 1 month. Okay? They could not rent like Airbnb, things like that. But we find out that they were doing Airbnb, executing a 1 month contract for 1 week rental, and people were leaving, and then another person were coming. It was a very, very sketchy situation. That's a conflict of interest. You cannot be the president of the building and have a business inside the building, okay, selling or even renting kind of exclusive from the building. So that's a red flag. And that, in my opinion, that shouldn't be allowed. The DBPR should review their statute and prohibit that kind of behavior, because this is going to start a problem.
So that's why I wanted so badly to talk about this subject. And because you just said the word allow. Mm-hmm. So there is a conflict of interest. There is an allowance from each party to the other. Who has the power in this equation? The owners of the building who elect the directors, or the directors who are exercising the rules?
Okay, the owner of the building have the power to change the member, the president, the vice president, the team managing the business. So that's one thing. Now, a lot of those people in that case were people who own apartment, but they were not living there. They were making money of those apartments, renting those apartments for vacation rental, okay? And those apartments were managed by the realtor, who is the president of the association. And of course, every year she was getting reelected because I would say 45% of the owners of the building were using this building to make money, to have property for rent. So they were on her favor because she was obviously renting the places for him, okay, for them. So that's the thing. So this is complicated. And then you have the other half of the people who live in the building. They don't want to see those people coming rental without any background check, okay? They could be criminal. They could be bad people or murder. I'm going to tell you a story about this building. We even find out that one of the apartment was rental for a pornographic production movie. So they were making pornographic movies in the building.
Right. So you got all kinds of people
All
walking
kind
and
of people. And then we had those sexy girl on the pool, you know, they were not doing anything pornographic, but it was like very disturbing. So all those things. Then we had another guy who was arrested in the building because he had a warrant. He was a criminal. FBI came, they arrested him. So there's no background check. Nobody knew. So you were living in this building, and maybe the next door to you, you got a bunch of criminals doing crazy stuff in the apartment.
with a good administration from the board of directors of any HOA, is there any benefit as far as money wise for the owners if they're doing a good job? Besides just having and keeping a good infrastructure, what is the incentive for the owners to?
Nothing. They're not getting paid. Okay, you do that. It's a non-profit association. So you do it that because you want to keep your community, nice. So you don't get paid. You don't get paid. You do that on your free time. And it's a lot of time. It's a full-time job.
So what is the
But
incentive?
the thing is, they are a member of the board, but they're not running the association. They're not running the building. You have a property manager who had a CAM license. Okay. This property manager can be a company who's managing different buildings. Okay. It can be somebody who had a CAM license and has been hired directly by the building. That's the best way, actually, to get the best of the management, because the big companies, they're good too, but if you want a better detail and more control job, you better hire your personal, property manager. And those people are doing all the books, they pay the employee, they pay, because you have maintenance team, you have this, you have that. So everything is managed by them. They get the money every month. Every owner of the apartment pay a condominium fee. Okay, the maintenance, which is also a big problem now, because a few years ago, in Florida, you were not required to have a provision like money in advance, So the fees, the condominium association fees were low. Okay. So now it's required. They have to have a provision in the bank. So to pay for maybe something going on, you don't know, you have always unexpected expenses and everything. Since there was like an accident in Surfside and the building collapsed, the regulation changed. Now they have 40 years. They used to have 40 years maintenance review. Now it's more on force. They ask more norms and more security to make sure that the building is not going to collapse. Okay. So that's also, for example, they used to pay $700 amount of maintenance fees, and all of a sudden it's $1,400, $1,500. It's a lot of money. And there is also special assessment. So that's also where the fraud come a lot of time. The building need a new elevators. The building need to replace the windows. So this is very expensive. So automatically the condominium is going to get a loan from the bank. And if there is no reserve in the building, sometimes they ask $1 million, $2 million reserve. If there is no reserve, they need to get a loan at the bank. And this money, for example, they have $5 million of repair. That's going to be split by the number of owner of the building. Okay. Of course, there is a vote for that, and the vote is voted by the 5 or 9 member of the board. Okay. So this is how people sometimes, like I hear, like big problem in the news right now. They have a special assessment to $26 million, a building in Miami Beach, for example. The people say we cannot afford that. It's like almost $200,000 special assessment by apartment. It's a lot of money. And some people cannot afford. There is complaint, they're fighting, they're going over, and they want to see if there is more estimate. And all of a sudden, there is another estimate. And instead of 26 million, it's 9 millions, 6 millions. So all those things raise a lot of question.
Correct.
You understand? So
Yeah, it is becoming clear now because I see that the value and the power of these HOA owners is to ensure that they have the right administration administering their funds.
Exactly.
And when they feel that those funds are mismanaged, is where a private investigator can step in to help them to ensure that they have the right team behind those funds.
Of course.
Okay.
Of course. So there is that. Now, obviously, what also a private investigator do a lot of time, we do background check, employee screening. So a lot of buildings, they are allowed to have rental. Okay? You cannot say no rental, only owner. No, it doesn't exist. You have to have a long-term rental, a yearly lease. So we do background check for them. Okay, to make sure we don't put the wrong people in the building. We do background check also for the new owner. Okay, they have to pass the background check. You want to buy the apartment, you have to be accepted by the board, and for that you need to pass the background check. We do background check. We do. Those like condominium fraud are coming more often right now. We have more clients calling us and see how we can help them. A lot of time also because they believe that there is a fraud, but there is no fraud. It's more a conflict between them.
Got it.
So that happened too. You have to take consideration of that. We have a case in Fort Lauderdale. It's a condominium. It's a HOA, and we have a property manager who were stealing money and mismanagement of money, embezzlement. So what she was doing, she was creating invoices and invoice different names of handyman that they don't exist. Ghost. She was getting money. She was getting paid 500, 300, 400, things like that. And we did some computer forensic and recover. And before she left, she deleted all the files about her because she worked there for 13 years, something like that. So we went back 5 years and we find out that a lot of files were completely deleted from the computer. So we recover a lot of them. And we find a lot of invoices that she was making with Excel, the same template, but different colors. But we find them in her Excel. So she was making those invoices, not those handymen. And she was hiring her husband as well to do handyman work, which is he was a mechanic guy. He was transmission mechanic worker, which has nothing to do with the handyman. She was buying jewelry. She was paying bills, paying health insurance for her, for her sister, for her son, for her entire family. I mean, a lot of fraud. Okay? We are not done. We're still working on the forensic side. So that's why you have to be careful when you have a property manager managing the business. Make sure that they don't spend the money, okay, of the condominium association or opening a side business to make money on that as well, things like that. This is the most common.
What other ways besides a background check do you have as a private investigator to uncover the truth about an insider doing the wrong thing for a property for a board of directors of an HOA?
But I mean,
If they hire you and they say, look, we have suspicions about this guy, in this case, this lady, as you mentioned.
Yeah, we find out the lady was a gambler. She had a gambling problem. Okay. So when you get a gambling problem, and we even find a lot of gambling invoices from the casino, this and that. We had a complete box of her gambling. She's a big gambler. And of course, that's a motivation to, move money around for your hobby.
I see. So part of the organic security offering that you do as a private investigator is surveillance, background check, digital background check,
computer forensic.
Got it.
We have to recover the data. You want to find the fraud, you need to follow the money. If you follow the money, you're going to find the fraud.
How long does it take? How long does it take to uncover the truth or to pursue?
Months, sometimes months. I mean, everything it depends. I mean, you have to do things carefully and according to the law, and you cannot do anything fast. You have to make sure you're doing the right thing.
So it is important for the clients or the people or the owners to make sure that if they start something, that they go through.
And then, like I say, we open the case, we start the case, then we have an evidence of fraud, then we drop the case to a law enforcement agency who's going to take over the investigation, and they're going to do their own investigation as well. They're going to get bank information, and they're going to do kind of what we did, but we are giving them a package that we're raising the rabbit. That's like an hunting party. You send the dog to lift the prey. Okay, and it's exactly what it is. And I'm glad that people are starting to be concerned about it, and looking to hire a private investigator, a third party, to investigate the case before they move forward with law enforcement.
I think it's very important, especially for the apartment owners, that they just basically commute and travel a time over the year, and they just basically trusting this board. It is important to have this kind of background check on the people that are managing their money.
Yes, absolutely. And then, a lot of times also you have employees in the condominium association, and then you have a valet parking. A lot of them have valet parking. And I was involved in investigation because one of the owner was telling me that his jewelry were missing. And we did the investigation. Of course, we find out, done with the camera system, with everything, that one of the valet was stealing from them, But it's not only valet. It could be a concierge. It could be any maintenance personnel, things like that. You live in a condominium. You have a fob security to pass the door. Then you have a security guard. Then you have a valet. Then you have a concierge. So you believe you are safe.
Correct.
You believe that you can leave your door open.
Exactly. And that's the first floor of security.
And that's happening. And I used to live in a condo. I used to leave my door open sometimes. I forgot, because I feel confident. But this is wrong, because, of course, with all the security steps that you have, it's very difficult to get to your apartment. But it could be the maintenance guy. It could be the valet who had access. It could be your neighbor. And especially if you live in a building, you have a vacation rental. I mean, it could be your neighbor for sure, because there is no background check. We don't know who those people are.
Especially with the case that you mentioned of people subletting or renting apartments for Airbnb or occasional, travelers. I mean, I don't understand how can you feel comfortable leaving your door locked, but with no lock, meaning that you just say, okay,
people do.
Yeah, I seen it.
And then we find out that it was one of the valet knew the apartment owner, and the wife has jewelry, Rolex, a nice ring, diamond, and everything. So when she goes out, take the card, valet see that, and I mean, some people are not honest, and they say, "Oh, there's a lot of money here. Maybe
they're paying attention."
Yeah, pay attention. And they were bringing the grocery a few times. Valet bring the grocery up, and they were seeing the jewelry on the table. They knew where things were, and they knew they were not closing the door, and they knew when they were leaving too, because they were the one who gave them the car to leave the apartment. So they knew when they were home or when they were not home. And so that was easy. So it's an inside job, and sometimes it happens, unfortunately. So you have to be careful.
So far from the previous episode, I learned what embezzlement is. And now we tie in embezzlement with HOA fraud.
Yes.
And so we are progressively understanding that the usage of a private investigator to really put a comprehensive security framework for an HOA owner or somebody or just an individual is essential. Yes. Because background checks can give you patterns of behavior.
Look, for example, you can do like an employee screening for the entire staff of the building. You don't want someone who's been arrested a few times for burglary, grand theft, petty theft, things like that, shoplifting, etc. You don't want that. Because obviously, if you have a valet parking guy who's been arrested for this kind of crime, I mean, you're like giving the hand to the wolf. Is going to bite you at one point. So I'm not saying it's going to happen, but there is a chance that happen. So that's why you do a screening for your tenant. You do a screening for your employees. You make sure you have the right people working at the right place.
And it goes also as an honor of an HOA. You can run a background check on the people you are going to or about to elect.
Yes, of course.
What is the most, this is my usual question, what is the most shocking case of HOA that you have dealt with?
Like shocking case, like I told you that there was the stealing, the jewelry was stolen. Like it was like $400,000 of jewelry they stole from this person. It was an apartment in Miami Beach, and the valet crew were involved. Not only one guy, it was few guys. So that's why you gotta be careful. And a lot of times, condominium association hire a valet company, a valet parking company. They don't hire their own personnel; they subcontract.
Correct.
So that's a liability because you don't know what the company went through to hire those people. So you can require a specific background again, to those third-party company employee. So that's something I will do. I will do drug testing to test people for drugs, okay? Because I don't want anybody is driving my car under influence of narcotic, okay?
Correct.
Especially a valet person. And I saw that. We had a guy, he was high like hell.
With a background check, can you go back up to 20 years?
Yeah, between 10 and 20, depends on the history of. If you have 20, if you're 18 years old, no, it's gonna be a few months back because you're a baby, you're just coming. But if you're like a 60, 50, 40, yes, we can go back as long as you start to drive a car and have your own address, things like that, so we can follow up and we can see your criminal background, we can see your civil traffic and all that stuff. So you gotta be careful. You gotta be careful who you're putting, especially when you have a very expensive condominium, very, very expensive. You have some condo on the beach. The monthly association fee, it's $6,000, $4,000
per month
for the maintenance.
Per month
By apartment. I mean, obviously, it's a lot of money.
Yes,
but it's real. I mean, they have like thousands of buildings like that from Miami to West Palm Beach. So I'm not saying all the buildings are this kind of price, but if you go to the Trump International in Sunny Isles or the so it's few $1,000s. I think it's about $3,000 a month, $4,000 a month.
So you mentioned 9 members have to be elected.
Maximum.
It could be one?
No,
it's got to be a bunch.
5 or 9.
Okay. Is there
up to 9?
Perfect. Is there a limitation to re-elect them or get rid of them?
No.
So if somebody in 2 months is underperforming, the owners can just basically.
No, you have to wait 1 year to re-elect somebody else. You've been elected for 1 year, which is good. 1 year is good.
So you have to put up with, if anything is not working, you have to put up.
You have to put up for 1 full year.
Okay.
They can put a mess. They can put a mess.
So the way to avoid that is to run your background check and to make sure that you do your due diligence to apply for investigation.
I mean, you gotta make sure. I mean, me personally, I live in the condominium association, but small. Obviously, it's not that bad. It's not a building apartment. It's HOA. It's a house. So it's a little different. You have more freedom. It's a little bit different. And when you live in an apartment building, it's a little more complicated. You have more restriction. You can't park here. You have valet parking. You have to pay the valet. You cannot wash your car. You cannot clean your car there.
Pet, maybe.
Yeah, sometimes no pet more than 10 pounds or 20 pounds. So if you want to get a bigger dog, you can't. You're not allowed to do it unless it's a service dog. Now, there is always a loophole for that.
And the $4,000 a month.
The $5,000 a month. If you want to do that, because look, you have a mortgage on your apartment. You pay your mortgage, you pay your maintenance fees, then you pay your taxes too.
I don't want to even know. The list goes on, and it's like.
And then I don't know. You gotta have a lot of money to live on the beach.
Got it. What are you going to talk to us in the next episode?
Next episode, I would like to talk about missing person.
Interesting. That is.
Yeah, that's something that touch a lot of people, missing like a family member, a child, somebody that we can help you to find and figure out what happened. Could be anything. Could be somebody who's sick or has a mental disorder and they disappear. It's an adult. It's not like a child. You cannot restrict it. You can better active someone, of course, if you can prove it's a danger for himself or for others. So also there is a lot of stuff.
There's a technical term in the private investigation world about a missing person. What is it called? It's a technical term that you use for a missing person.
Missing person?
Yeah, but there's something else that you guys...
What do you mean, tracing?
It's keep tracing, correct.
Yes, keep tracing. It's to find someone. It doesn't have to be a missing person. I mean, it's missing because you look for
right.
But it could be anything.
And that's why I think that's very interesting. What I would like for our audience for you to share is the techniques and the way a private investigator can actually...
there is so many ways we can find people. I mean, there's a lot of stuff.
I mean, I'm looking forward for this episode
Sure.
Because, as you know, you see it in the movies, but you know this more than anybody on real life. Is thousands and thousands of pictures of people missing.
Yeah, unfortunately. But we're going to talk about that. It's another problem. It's human trafficking involved, and obviously it's real. And we're going to talk about human trafficking and what's going on with those young people disappearing. All of a sudden, you never find them ever. Okay.
As you can see, we're learning together. This is an opportunity for you to get in touch with the men, to ask questions, to...
Yes, please feel free to contact me and contact my agency. We have an office in Hollywood. We have an office in Miami Beach, and we have an office in Boca Raton. So we cover South Florida. And we have also a lab, cybercrime lab with computer forensic. And if you need to have any device checked by our services to make sure that you don't have any malware or infected program being hacked. I mean, there is a lot of stuff going on right now. We can help you. Or even lawyers, they have a case, they want to recover a forensic database from a computer or cell phone. We do that as well. Okay.
You see it is all for you. We're growing together with you and we appreciate your support. I'm looking forward to the next episode and thank you for this time.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Until then, see you next time.
Ciao.